Because basically what we're going to be looking at on this quiz preview is identical to what you're seeing tomorrow. The quiz tomorrow is short. I believe it actually is 10 questions like this. But again, it's mainly breaking down radicals and putting together things that are alike. Now, here's what you've got to be careful of, though. Some of you are still struggling a bit, and that's not a bad thing, with some of the breaking down of radicals. But remember, you have a sheet to help you with this. Okay, so if playing around in the calculator, even though most of you are electronically inclined, I don't know why pressing a few buttons would hurt, these are still available over in the note folders too. So if you've misplaced this, want something that can kind of help, we'll refer to this some when we're doing ours, but something to consider. So I'm getting ready to break down these radicals, and there always has to be one of those, and we've called them all sorts of things here. I'm going with radical reds today because, well, I happen to have a red pen, which is going to make this a little bit easier to work with. But these basically are the magic numbers we're looking to use here. The ones that'll break down when I take the square roots of them into numbers I can use to simplify my radicals. Now again, you've got a chart that does this for you too, but sometimes, having a little less information can be a little more helpful. So for instance, if I'm trying to break down the square root of 63 and decimals need not apply, what might be a couple of numbers that multiply to 63, but one of them has to be one of the red numbers? And if you're not sure, you can use the chart, or you always have the option of just playing with those red numbers. And by that I mean, take one of those and take one of the red numbers and try to divide it in. See if it goes in evenly. Okay, no, that didn't work. What about, how about 16? No. What about 9? Okay, winner. So that tells me that 9, since it divided in, is one of the numbers, and the answer I got out, 7, is also one, because 9 times 7 is 63. And then basically all I have left is, one of them is going to break down, the red one. The square root of 9 is 3 on good behavior. It got out of radical jail with a new identity. 7, still acting irrationally, must stay underneath. That's what I'm looking for. And when we do this on the quiz, I want to see the breakdown. Even if you're like, no, I'm doing it in my head. No, I want to see what times what gets me to 63 and then where the breakdown's coming from. So if we do that on the next one, somebody help me out with 50. We'll deal with the 3 in front in a minute. Got my prototypical 50-50 going on here. I got my 4 of you that are already sitting on number 5, and the rest of you are spacing out on me. Thank you. I was going to say, this is going to be a fun video to watch. You're like, did it quit working? No. I just have a very quiet group today. Okay, so 25 and 2. And again, play with the calculator. Do something. Sitting on your butt, twiddling your thumbs, not going to get you anywhere. So once I break it down, if there's a value out on the outside, 3 times 5 is 15, and I can finish it off that way. So that's the one thing we want to be watching out for. So as we continue to do these, we just keep playing around with numbers, trying to find something, anything, that'll divide in that's one of those red numbers. So play around with 3 here for a minute. What might go in there? Any ideas even on just a number that might go in? We'll test it. 9. All right, let's try it out. And I appreciate your willingness to try one out. All right, let's try out 9. 9 going to help us? Close, but no.
49.
49. Yes. So 49, and the answer that comes out, 2. And again, if I got my list available, which I do, I can always look and say, okay, square root of 49 is 7. Square root of 2 is 2. And again, if I don't want to play around in the calculator right now, I've always got the option of looking around on here, trying to see maybe, just maybe, if I could find that number on here, because then I'd still find my 49 and 2. And I even have written, if I look a little further down, what that square root of 49 is. So it's all there at this point. Now it's just going to be a choice if you're going to use it or not. All right, we'll deal with the variables in a minute. That's something we've been doing for a couple of days here. But the 40s is what I'm going to want to deal with first. So I'll help out a little bit on this one so we can get to the big stuff. So I do my square root of 4, because there's always going to be one that breaks down. So that's 2. The 10's not, but I'm going to leave a little bit of space here, and I'll tell you why. When we get to the variables, remember the rule. We're going to be dividing the exponent by 2. We're going to do some old school division. And anything that goes in evenly, so like with my x's, for instance, I got a 6, and I'm dividing it by 2, goes in 3 times. However many times it goes in is my exponent on the variable that goes outside. If there's nothing left, I don't worry about it. I'm done. Okay? But if there's something left, which we're going to get to see here with our y exponent, 2 goes into 7, okay, 3 times. So I get a y to the 3rd out here. But this time, I notice I have a remainder left. I have a remainder of 1. Whatever's left over goes inside. Okay? So whatever divides in, outside, remainders, they stay in. And I'm done. And that's basically all there's going to be to these that I have to concern myself with. Now, we don't have to get silly. If I see a perfect square, I'm just going to use that right away. Okay, so I got the negative 2. Square root of 36 is 6. I don't even need to worry about finding a second number. But for the rest of these, again, I'm just going to take the exponent, divide by 2. Oh, I got nothing left. Okay, so that one was just 2. And I'm going to do that with each one. Now, do I have to write out each and every single thing here? If I just, oops, I almost forgot my 2. You know, if I just know that 2 goes into 2 once, do I have to do all this on the side? And the answer, no. But again, I'm much more of a visual type learner. I like to see what's going on. 2 goes into 20 10 times. So you're like, dang, there's no radical left. That's possible. That can happen. If everything works out perfectly, that's fine. And then we just multiply the coefficients in front. We're ready and raring to go. Okay, no worries. Number 6, I apologize. That I shouldn't be there. It should just be 72. I got my variable terms mixed up, and I is something totally different. So here, again, I'm going to be looking for a number. Now, this one I got to be a little more careful on. Any ideas on what might go into 72? Because actually, there's going to be a couple of options this time. Okay, and that's the best one. 2 and 36. So if I get the biggest one, which is 36, I get to the answer right away. But let's say, just out of coincidence, you weren't sure and you started playing with them a little bit. And you said, hey, 9 goes in. So you did 9 and 8. And you were working along, and you're like, okay, the square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 8. You're like, well, wait a minute. I got a different answer. Yes and no. Your answers look different, but actually number-wise they're the same, but here's the difference. Since I didn't get the biggest perfect square out, that 8 will still break down because 4 will go into it. So if I don't get the biggest one, I look at my final answer and I may have to break it down again. So the 4 breaks down to 2. Oh, okay. So I get the same answer, but who wants to go through all that to get the answer? So really, if you're going to start guessing, guess some of the bigger numbers first, and then work your way through that to the bottom. So that's more of our breakdown stuff. Once we get through some of that, now we start getting into like terms and combining and breaking down and doing it all together. So like here, they're all the same. This is the equivalent of having like 3x minus 8x plus 4x. They're all like terms. I can't break down the 22 though. I could try, but if I'm looking at my numbers, I'll just let you know 4, 9, or 16, none of them are going to divide in. So it doesn't help me. So if I was doing these, I'd have 3 minus 8 is negative 5. If I owe somebody $5 and I pay them 4 back, I still owe them 1. And that's going to be the same thing here. I'm just combining like terms. I'm just adding and subtracting coefficients. But I got to look at the number in front. That tells me a lot about what's going on. Now, are they always going to be quite that nice straight away? No. No. Sometimes I may have to break something down. Like, for instance, the square root of 9 is 3. But this x, if I go back to my rule from before, that can cause me a little bit of an issue. For instance, here, the exponent's just 1. Well, if I do 1 and I try to divide by 2, I can't. So the x has to stay underneath, and that's the tricky part. It's like the one part comes out so nice, and then the other part doesn't do anything. And then the next part, I can't do anything yet. And then I look at the last part, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute. 16's a perfect square. So that's 4, but again, I can't do anything with the x. But after you look at it for a minute and you are really careful and break things down, you say, hey, I see where this is going. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20, because they're not under the radical. But now all my radicals are the same. It's just like what happened in number 7. Since they're all the same, now I just got to look at the numbers in front. 3 plus 8, that's 11. But 11 minus 20 would be negative 9. And that way I can be done. But I always got to look to see if I can break something down first. We saw in number 7 I couldn't. We saw in number 8 I could. We never know until we actually get into the problem. And then the last 3, we're kind of going back towards the top again. Are they the same now? No. Will they be the same in a minute? Maybe. But again, it takes me breaking each of those apart to see what I can do. So I look and I'm like, okay, 24, 16, no, that doesn't go in. 9, that doesn't go in. 4, yes. 4 goes into 24 6 times. 96. Now, here's a trick for you. This is what I always like to try. Whichever number doesn't break down nice in the prior one, so like here, I've got my 2 square root of 6. That square root, a lot of times, if you try to divide it into the other numbers, it works. So let's see if that works for me, if this isn't going to quite work out how I liked. If I divide by 6, hey, I get 16. Hey, 16 is a perfect square. I'm in. 16 and 6. So the square root of 16 is 4. Let's see if we can press our luck and see if it works again. I'm going to divide by that one that's got stuck under the radical. Hey, perfect square again. Break down my perfect square, so the square root of 9 is 3. Two plus 4 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. Okay, so I mean, it's a process. I got to break all the radicals down, then I got to see what ones go together. And they may not all go together every time. None of them may go together after I break them down. I don't know. It depends. So one more to play with here, and then I'll kind of let you try some of these. So 4 and then 108. 108. Let's play. Or you can use your chart if some of you are charting here. You swing this over so we can see it a little bit better. Oh, let's see. 108. I don't think 81's going to work. Let's try 64. Okay, that didn't work. Pretty sure 49's not going to work, but I guess I should check. Notice I'm trying the bigger ones first. 36. 36. Winner, winner. All right. So I've got 36, and the 3 that was left when I divided it. So the square root of 36 is 6. This one I can't break down at all, but I start to notice, I'm like, hey, they both have square roots of 3. 4 times 6 is 24. Minus 5, square root of 3. Same radical, so I can put them together. 24 minus 5 is 19, and I'm set. And like I was saying before, this is basically the quiz you're going to see tomorrow. I'm just going to change around variables and some of the numbers and some of the breakdowns. But with that chart, and then even just if you wrote down these 10, or if you didn't know them, just type in your calculator, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared. Just write down those things at the top of your quiz. Shouldn't be anything that's too terribly awful. So again, spend the rest of your time collecting the sheets for the homework check if you need to, if not working on or completing those. And then if you're looking for some ways to get some points back from earlier, the extra credit packet up front can get you a couple of assignments right off the top. So